Can't hear him.
You are muted.
Sorry about what was practice like today, guys? Did y'all go inside or out? Was it raining on you?
We were inside today, but I feel like everyone, like Coach said at the end of practice, everyone had a chip on their shoulder. So, it was very detailed practice, very fast practice. I think everyone's just going to work today. So, get back to the point of going 1-0, each day and, getting the chance to go 1-0 on Saturday.
Yeah, what'd you think of today's work, Rohan?
Yeah, I think same thing. We really got back into the indoor, and we were full speed, full contact. It was a good practice. I think we got better today for sure.
You've lined up at basically the full. I think you caught a pass from fullback spot against Memphis, and then last week you had one from the H back. Can you talk about just all the different utilizations you've had, and if you like that and how it works?
I mean, since my freshman year, I've always deemed myself as a very versatile player. I think that's my main quality, and I think Coach Petrino definitely sees that in me as well. So he just wants to use me in as many ways as possible to help the team.
Hey, Raylen, you had the touchdown last week, but helped by some good blocking downfield, and that's been kind of a characteristic of the receiving core. Can you maybe talk about how important that's been for you guys?
Just, catching the football isn't just our only job. So, we got to do our job and getting guys on the third level. We have a lot of explosive players on here. So if you get into the third level, a lot of good things can happen. So just doing our part in every phase of the game, and doing it at a high level.
And then my last question for you guys would be, it's been a while since there's been a winning post-game locker room for you. What would that feel like to get back on that side of the ledger this week, Raylen?
Be great, man. Not being this ill feeling. So just be able to, feel like our work is really counted, and the adversity we went through, letting it pay off. So hopefully we can feel that soon, and just have smiles on our face after the game.
Rohan, could you respond to that too?
Yeah, I agree. I think we have a really tight-knit locker room, so we already have a really good vibe in the locker room. So a win would mean so much more to us. I think it's gonna be a really good feeling when we get that taste out of our mouth and get back after a game with a win.
Thanks, guys.
Trey, go ahead.
Yeah, guys. With it being your last years, I mean, how frustrating has that been for you guys individually, or maybe it hasn't been, just with your last year to start the way you guys have, and obviously trying to get it turned around this weekend?
I wouldn't call it frustrating, because I think football is a game of life and things don't always go your way. But I feel like the brotherhood aspect of just we're both transfers, we both just got here, and I think we're both having a great time playing for the Hogs, and we're grateful for it. So we're just gonna keep striving and keep trying to get some wins. But I wouldn't say it's frustrating. I think I'm still proud to be a Hog and proud to be part of this family.
Yeah, Raylen, your thoughts?
For me, I think we all just want to win at the end of the day. But at the same time, like you're saying, being grateful. Me and Rohan talk about all the time, just where we came from. This is a lot better than places that we came from. So just being grateful, but at the same time, just having the perspective that, sometimes you work for stuff and it doesn't go your way, and just being able to keep going. So, we got a few more opportunities. You can't let up just because of the past or the things that happened in the past. So we're just going to keep working, get better. We have futures after this as well. So you can't let up. And, Bobby P tells us a lot of times, like, football does translate to life itself. So adversity is going to happen with your kids and things like that nature. So if you were to back down now, it's going to happen later in the future. So we just got to keep having a positive attitude, keep going to work. And it's going to pay off, one of these days.
What have you guys seen from the Mississippi State defense? Obviously, a team that's given up some points here and there this year. Do you guys think this could be maybe a higher scoring game than what we saw last week?
I don't necessarily think that their record represents how they play. I think they're a really sound defense. They play hard, and I think they're going to come to Fayetteville with a chip on their shoulder. They want to get a win as well, so it'll definitely be a good battle.
Yeah, Raylen, you're sure.
For me, yeah, they're just gonna come to work. I think, both teams have a lot of adversity and they want to get some, that chip off their shoulders. So they're gonna come in here, go to work. We weren't here last year, but they're, a way better team than we were last year. So, each game we just got to do our best. We can't really worry about who's on the other side of the ball. We got to do our job and, just stop beating ourselves and, play, one play at a time and, make that the best play. And so, we just got to do our job and play our best 4 quarters. Not 1 or 2 quarters, but all 4. So they're gonna come to play, we're gonna come to play, and you know, we just got to do our job.
Thanks, fellas.
DB, go ahead.
Yeah, Rohan, in the preseason, we were talking to you about just making the move to the SEC, and now 75% of the way through the season. How different kind of has it been just as an athlete playing in this league?
I think definitely the speed of the game is faster, and the guys we go against are like bigger and stronger. But I mean, at the end of the day, football is football, and it's the same game we've been playing since we're kids. And I think I definitely adapted to the level, and I think Raylen could speak to that as well, coming from the lower FCS level. But I think once you're on that field, you don't care about SEC, FCS, ACC, whatever. You're just playing ball. So we're just out there to play, make some plays.
And again, for you, it seems like, you're always out there catching like a 45-yard pass, downfield. Whenever that play is getting called, what are you kind of thinking on the line of scrimmage? Confidence that, you're going to get it for a good one?
I mean, I try to play with full confidence every play, no matter what. But it doesn't just depend on me. You know, I'm just doing catching the ball. It goes from the snap to the O-line blocking to a great pass by Taylor. So it's a whole process to all the way before I catch the ball. So it's not just on me. I just think we've been doing a great job, and Coach Petrino's dialing up some really good plays. So
Yeah, you were telling us before kind of how you got into football. In Canada, I was just kind of curious if your family has been able to come down, or maybe if they've been watching you on TV or something, anything like that.
yeah, my mom tries to come down as much as possible, and I have a village behind me back home, definitely paying attention and watching every game. So it's an honor to be able to do that for them.
And then Raylan, for you, I guess, how would you kind of characterize or describe the group of tight ends that you guys got?
There's some characters, man. It's always a smile on their face. They're always laughing. So you know, they're a room that gets everyone else going. They're not a room that's down, regardless of you know what's going on in their life or things like that. There are people that you want to be around when you know you're down and you're not having the best day because they will put a smile on your face. So you don't know what they're gonna say, to be honest. But you know, they're just good people to be around. And they want best for everybody, not just for themselves. And I think not just their room, but everyone else, you know, especially on the offense side of the ball, and because that's who we're with most of the time. But everyone wants what's best for everyone else. So just being, you know, a family and a brotherhood is, you know, is something I love being around. And it's a little different because a lot of us are transfers. You know, we met like in January, and you would think we met 6 years ago. So it's just a close knit group.
Uh, with a group of characters, has there been ever any memorable moments over the months, either with Rohan next to you or Jaden Platt that comes to mind?
I think most of the time is when we're trying to find out celebrations or something like that, you know, just, you know, what we're gonna do in the end zone. I think my favorite moment with Rohan was Memphis when he did his Kevin Gates celebration. You know, I didn't think he was gonna do that, but you know, just certain things, man, it's just you don't know what's gonna happen next.
Thanks, guys.
Jackson, go ahead.
Hey guys, both of y'all mentioned maybe a chip on your shoulder in practice today. It's had been a while maybe since the offense hadn't had a great game. Do you think that's maybe played a part in it? You guys just trying to make amends for the Auburn game, and that kind of played a role in maybe a little bit of intensity at practice this week?
I think we just hold ourselves to a standard. You know, Bobby P holds us to a standard. He wants perfection, and we haven't, you know, given that. So I think everyone just, you know, we want to win. We want to be the best offense in America, and we haven't been doing that. So I think that's just all the work we've put in, and you know, we want the results to come out of it. But at the same time, it makes us who we are, and I think that's, you know, what God's teaching us at the moment, man. Just in the process, you know, teaching us, you know, and growing us through this situation. But you know, us each players, man, we want to be the best. We want to be the greatest. So, you know, you're gonna have that chip on your shoulder when you're, you know, not acting that way, and you know, knowing that if we just do our job, man, it doesn't happen. So, you know, just holding us to a standard, man, and you know, Bobby P, you know, wanted him to hold us to a standard and keep going. So we're gonna keep doing that.
They got a guy, a safety, Brylan Lanier, who I think he's tied for the lead in the conference in interceptions. Has he stood out on film? And what do you make of that entire secondary? They've been kind of up and down, but they force a lot of turnovers. What have you seen from that unit specifically?
They're a good defensive back. They're back in. But like I said earlier, man, we just worry about ourselves, man. You can't worry about who's on the other side of the ball. You can't worry about what number or what name. Um, it's mano a mano out there, and it's man, you and the other guy against you, and you're trying to get paid at the end of the day. So, I don't think we worry about numbers or stats or anything of that nature. We just go play football. Especially like we were talking about earlier from where we came from. You don't worry about, who's on the other side of the ball too much. So, we just got to do our job. And, when the ball comes our way, we got to catch it and do something with it after that.
Rohan, what have you seen from Talon in practice this week? And how's his mindset been after the tough day on Saturday?
I think he's ready to work. He's ready to go out there and just keep doing what we've been doing all season and get back to that standard. Like Raylen said, like I think we showed what we can do as an offense, and he's shown what he can do as a quarterback, and we just got to get back to that level. And I know you guys were asking about lifting him up and all that after the game, but I think like we're all there for Talon, but he doesn't need us to be there for him. I think he's a very strong individual and he's our leader, so he's not going to let one performance or whatever people are saying about him affect his play. I think we got back to work today and we're back to that level, and we need to prove that that's where we belong.
You say you sense he doesn't even need that. Like, does he tell you that? Is it just by his actions and what he does in practice? I mean, how can you kind of get a sense that he's the type of guy that, he's doing all right and can kind of push through that adversity on his own a little bit?
I think just by his attitude and like he won't say a lot, but he leads by action. And I think that just the way he came out like in meetings Sunday and Monday and then in practice today, like you can tell that one performance is not going to let him skip a beat for the long hold of the rest of the season. So I think he's been doing really well, and I expect him to keep doing well.
Appreciate it, guys.
Tom, back to you.
Yeah, I did forget to ask Raylen, when you caught that pass last week, the one that broke, why was that play so open, and what did you see when you turned around?
Man, I just saw two people fall, or one fall, and the other one just he was behind me, and I just saw green grass. I haven't seen a lot of green grass like that in a very long time. So, I saw end zone, so we got to get end zone. But Omega made a good block down the field, making another touchdown block, doing his job. So, it's not just me, Taylor making the right read, O-line giving him time, things of that nature, and he just had a great look, and after the catch, I got to do my job and have some yak after that. So just saw green grass and went to go score.
You played for Bobby P as a head coach before. What did you thought of him now in the full leadership role with you guys?
People just ask me about himself all the time, but he doesn't change. It didn't matter if he was the OC or the head coach. He does not change at all. For the offense side, mainly, we knew what we are going to get out of him. Like I said, he wants perfection, and so it's not going to change. He's just, around everything now in all three phases of the game, from defense to special teams and everything. So, you know, I know how he is. He wants perfection and everything, man. And I know he hates losing, so he's going to do everything possible to go win the game. So, I got so much trust in him, and I love him so much. He's changed my life in so many different ways, from going to walk on to putting me on scholarship there. So, I got love for him. I'm gonna do everything possible to, get him a win and do everything possible to help my boys get a win.
All right, really, my last thing. Speaking of green grass that you just had last week, every time Rohan's caught the ball, it seemed like there's been a bunch of green grass. What do you think of 34 yards a catch, man?
And that's different. I just tell him he gotta go score though. That's why I say, like, we hold each other to a high standard, and regardless of how good we did, we want to be better. So, I told him he got to get in the end zone next time. So, it's a crazy number, man. And the thing is, that's what we brought him here for. Make big plays. Be a playmaker. When the ball comes his way, do his thing, man. I just call him a gamer. He's a gamer. It is what it is, and his tape from FCS shows it as well. So, keep stacking on these, opportunities that we have. Love being around him. He's never complaining. He's always doing his job. It doesn't matter if he's catching the ball or blocking. Y'all see a lot of the catches, but I didn't see him, pancake a couple guys and make sure So, just doing his job and having fun with it.
Yeah, and Rohan, the catch over the shoulder, it looks like the guy was hitting you a little earlier. No flag, but you caught it anyway. Could you feel that?
Yeah, I was just focused on the ball. I'm not gonna lie. I saw the ball and it was everything froze. It was just me and the ball, and I had to come down with it. So I wasn't too worried about him, but I'm just glad I made that catch.
Thanks.
Trey, wrap this one up.
Yeah, I just got one question. And Raylen, you kind of talked about it a little bit, but neither of you guys will be here next year, obviously. And every time we've asked Coach Petrino, who has said, he wants to be considered for the permanent job, but every time we've asked him about it, he's always diverted to making it all about the players and wants to just talk about you guys. I was wondering if you guys could talk about him and why you think that maybe he should be the permanent head coach, since he is considered a candidate.
For me, being, with him and just knowing his background, man, you can just look it up and see what he's done throughout the years. And, just his aura, man, we talk about all the time. He has a different type of aura. A lot of people ask why the defense been playing the way they've been playing, man. It's his aura. Just being around him, everyone wants to be a winner. Everyone believes they want to be a winner. He puts, belief in you that, everybody can be a winner. But the biggest thing with him, he doesn't care about just football. He cares about life after football. What you turn into like after football with your kids, your family, your job. He cares about the afterlife about football, and I think that's the biggest thing with him. And he's just a winner, and not just football, but life itself. And I love being around him. His grandkids and everybody were at the game last week, man. And he's just a good person himself. And he loves being a Razorback. That's the biggest thing, man. He loves being a Razorback. He's gonna do everything possible to turn it around. And so just keep stacking. We're gonna keep playing for him, and whatever happens in the future, man. I know God has it planned out. And so if he's here, I know he's gonna make being a Razorback and Razorback fans happy in the future.
Rohan?
Yeah, I think just like he said, his intensity. I think he's a very intense coach, and he makes you want to win. Like I think the first meeting that he was the interim head coach, I think he had the whole team pretty fired up and just like motivated to just go out there and win, and not necessarily making it about him because he hasn't spoken to us about wanting to be the head coach next year. I think he's just worried about right now. So I think if he just keeps focusing on right now and the whole team focus on right now, everything will pan out the way it's supposed to be. But yeah, I think he's an intense coach and he loves his players. It might be tough love, but he definitely loves all his players. So it's been a pleasure playing for him.